What is going on, people? Welcome to Big Man Outdoor Adventures, and today I want to talk to you about a subject that's not always so easy, which is, it's fixing your own mistakes as a hiker. All right? We all get overconfident. I am a major violator of that. So let me set the scenario for you. Last week I went on what was set to be probably the most difficult technical hike that I had gone on. I'm no newbie. I've been hiking every week for like the last 6 months plus. Okay? And the weather is dry. There's no slipping, except for when there is. And the next thing you know, you got these bad boys. Because you sprain your Achilles and you activate a bone spur. Terrible stuff. Didn't even know I had one. And why, you ask? Well, there are so many reasons, okay? So I'm going to step back and I'm going to say, okay, what was it? Was it gear? Was it overconfidence? Was it technique? And the answer is it's a little bit of all three. Okay, so if I'm going to take this situation, I'm going to say from a gear perspective, I was using poles for the first time in who knows how long. And when you have hiking poles, it makes you a little more confident. It makes everything easier. You turn yourself into a quadruped, but, specifically when there's a lot of rocks involved and boulders and things where you got to move off and down, a lot of places where you would move down on your butt, you're kind of like, you know what, I'm just going to hop it. I'm going to stick my pole in the ground and kind of use it like like a landing assist. And turns out that may have been a big mistake, but that was one mistake. All right? Usually a gear mistake is something like, I didn't bring the right clothes for the right weather, or not enough water or food, whatever. Okay? In this case, I would say that the gear might have maybe a little overconfident, but it's not the whole story, because obviously I'd gone over a whole bunch of other rocks and nothing bad happened. Right? So this is where overconfidence steps in. So as I step back and I look at it and I say, okay, it was dry. All right, whenever it's dry, I personally am very liberal about going over rocks, rock surfaces, rock faces, whatever you want to call it, because I'm not worried about slipping. All right? Turns out that's not always true. In this case, the rock was kind of vertical like this, and I thought that the front of my foot was going to touch the ground. Didn't. Turns out the rock was a little taller. And, next thing I know, I'm going back half a kilometer, climbing over rocks using these poles as crutches. And I was lucky enough that one of the rangers drove by on the road that was kind of above this canyon where I was hiking. And I said, hey, I need a little bit of help out of here, because I would have had to have actually climbed something to get out. But that's not the entirety of it. The entirety of it is stopping. Okay? I grew up playing team sports. I grew up playing football, basketball, wrestling, sports where the surface never changes, all right? A basketball court is a basketball court. Football field's a football field. Wrestling mat is a wrestling mat. You can go back and you can look at game film, and you can say, okay, if I correct A, B, and C and practice it over and over, it's going to be good. And it doesn't work that way outdoors, okay? I can't say, the trails are all exactly 7 miles long, and there will be rocks that are 90-degree triangles every 100 feet. Doesn't work like that. And so if I want to step back and I want to look critically, I want to say that the biggest thing that I can do, and that I think everybody else can do, is stopping and looking at each trail, at each journey, as its own thing, and not saying, this is kind of like this, No, you have to treat everything as if it's its own, because Mother Earth is not shaped the way we have shaped our own spaces, our own urban spaces, our own exercise spaces, and so on and so forth. And so you have to give respect to nature for kind of forming stuff a little randomly, a little bit more chaotically, and being ready to expect the unexpected. And the other thing is, be willing to slow down. All right, I developed a really great pace, like a really awesome pace, you know, for a big guy. That's pretty good. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a fast hiker. I usually have a lot of gear with me for filming or for whatever. Sometimes I do some bushcraft on the way, whatever. I like to mix things up. I have more stuff with me than usual, so I'm not always moving so quickly. But that day I picked up a really good pace, and I really wanted to get through everything to the point where I had to climb what are metal ladders punched into a wall and kind of get through that big chunk. And by pushing myself too fast over something I thought was simple, I missed it. And so what do you do as a hiker in all this? Number one, you got to stop. All right. If you have photos from trails, look at them. But you also got to be ready to like stop as you go on the trail. All right. This is also a good way to avoid getting lost, by the way. I say that as a nice warning to all. You got to be ready to do things like backtrack, which I ended up having to do because, well, I was not climbing any rock faces. And you got to be able to check yourself. And that's not always easy to do. Egos, even though those of us who are outdoorsy types are not exactly the rah-rah, sis-boom-bah types. Okay, maybe I am a little bit because I transferred from, like, you know, sports where there's trash talking. But, you know, you have to be willing to say, I'm just a man. I'm just a lady. Whatever. You have to be willing to stop and say, I am who I am. All right? Just another person on this planet. And I'm not in charge. Mother Nature's in charge. And so I think I'm going to leave it there. I think that I'm excited to kind of work through this. I should be hopefully back in. I'm hoping in a couple of weeks I'll be able to be back hitting trails and doing stuff like that, some more adventures. Because right now, that's definitely not happening. I wish it were. And I want to invite you to come with me. So please, if you enjoyed this video, click like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And if nothing else, go outside and be ready to learn from what nature presents you. We'll see you next time.